The arrival. The gleaming spires of the Galactic Academy pierce the lavender sky of Nexus Prime, a testament to the united efforts of 1,000 alien civilizations. For millennia, the most brilliant minds from across the Milky Way had converged here to share knowledge, forge alliances, and shape the future of galactic society. Today, however, the Academy's hallowed halls buzzed with an entirely new kind of excitement and no small amount of trepidation. Zhou Chen stood at the base of the Academy's main entrance, her heart pounding as she took in the towering architecture that seemed to defy the laws of physics. The 18-year-old human adjusted the strap of her duffel bag, acutely aware that she was the first of her species to set foot on this world. The weight of representing humanity pressed down on her shoulders, heavier than any luggage. "Welcome, Cadet Chen," a melodious voice chimed from seemingly everywhere and nowhere at once. "I am ARA, the Academy's responsive intelligence assistant. Please proceed to the central atrium for orientation." Zhou swallowed hard and stepped forward. The doors, sensing her approach, parted with a soft hiss. As she entered, she couldn't help but gasp. The atrium was a vast, open space that seemed to stretch endlessly upward, its walls lined with hovering platforms occupied by beings of every conceivable shape and size. Some were vaguely humanoid, others defied easy categorization, creatures of light, amorphous blob-like entities, and even what appeared to be sentient gas clouds. All conversation ceased as Zhou made her way to the center of the room. Hundreds of alien eyes, or sensory organs approximating eyes, focused on her with intensity. She could feel their curiosity, their skepticism, and in some cases, their outright hostility. A tall, willowy being with iridescent skin glided towards her. Its features were difficult to discern, constantly shifting like oil on water. "Cadet Chen," it said, its voice a harmonic blend of tones. "I am Dean Xylith. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I welcome you to our esteemed institution." Zhou bowed slightly, remembering her diplomatic training. "Thank you, Dean Xylith. I'm honored to be here and hope to learn much from you all." A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd. Xylith's form shimmered, perhaps indicating surprise. "Well spoken, young human. Your species has come far in a short time. It was not long ago that we debated whether to make contact with Earth at all." Before Zhou could respond, another figure pushed through the crowd. This one was bulky, with a tough, bark-like exterior and glowing bioluminescent patches. "Dean Xylith," it rumbled, "I must object once again to this experiment. Humans are barely out of their stone age by galactic standards. Their presence here could be disruptive, even dangerous." Zhou felt her cheeks flush with indignation, but she held her tongue. This was exactly the kind of prejudice she'd been warned about. Xylith's form rippled again, this time with what Zhou interpreted as annoyance. "Professor Corax, we've been over this. The Council's decision is final. Humanity has demonstrated remarkable adaptability and potential. It's time we gave them a chance to prove themselves on the galactic stage." Corax's bioluminescent patches flared brightly, and if they proved to be as violent and unpredictable as their history suggests, what then? A tense silence fell over the atrium. Zhou knew this was a crucial moment. Taking a deep breath, she stepped forward. "If I may, Professor," she said, her voice steady despite her nerves, "I understand your concerns. Humanity's history is indeed marked by conflict, but it's also a history of incredible progress, of overcoming our baser instincts to reach for the stars." She gestured around the atrium. "This academy represents the pinnacle of galactic cooperation and knowledge. I'm here not just to learn, but to show you that humans can be valuable contributors to this grand endeavor. Judge me, judge us, by our actions here, not by the mistakes of our past." The silence that followed was deafening. Then, from somewhere in the crowd, a sound erupted. It took Zhou a moment to realize it was applause, or at least the varied species equivalent of it. Tentacles waved, appendages clapped, and harmonic tones resonated throughout the atrium. Dean Solit's form seemed to glow with approval. "Well said, Cadet Chen. It seems you may indeed have much to teach us." The dean turned to address the crowd. "Let this mark the beginning of a new era of understanding between humanity and the galactic community." As the applause died down, Zoe was ushered away by a small, reptilian being who introduced itself as her academic advisor. As they walked, Zoe couldn't help but notice the mix of reactions from the aliens they passed: curiosity, excitement, and yes, still some suspicion. Her advisor led her to a small, spherical chamber that would serve as her quarters. "Rest now, Cadet Chen," it said. "Your classes begin tomorrow, and I suspect they will be unlike anything you've experienced before." Left alone, Zoe sat on the edge of her bed, a gelatinous substance that molded itself to her body shape. She pulled out a small hologram projector, activating it to reveal an image of her family back on Earth. Tears welled up in her eyes as the enormity of her situation truly hit her. "I won't let you down," she whispered to the image. "I won't let any of us down." As she drifted off to sleep, lulled by the unfamiliar hum of alien technology, Zoe couldn't shake the feeling that her arrival at the Galactic Academy was just the beginning of something much bigger than herself. Little did she know how right she was, or how her presence would shake the very foundations of galactic society in the days to come. The next morning came all too quickly. Zoe was roused by a gentle vibration from her bed, accompanied by Aoria's soothing voice. "Good morning, Cadet Chen. Your first class begins in 1 standard hour. The recommended nutrition package for your species has been synthesized and awaits you in the common area." Zoe dressed quickly in the academy uniform, a sleek, adaptive material that adjusted to her body temperature and movements. She made her way to the common area, where she found a small crowd of alien students already gathered, their attention immediately drawn to her as she entered. A gelatinous being oozed towards her, extending a pseudopod in what Zoe hoped was a greeting. "Hello, human," it burbled. "I am Blorp of the Viscosi. We are most curious about your species. Is it true that you only have 1 heart and cannot regrow limbs?" Zoe smiled, grateful for the friendly approach. "That's right, Blorp. We're a bit less flexible than some species, but we make up for it in other ways." As she ate her breakfast, a surprisingly palatable nutrient bar that tasted vaguely of cinnamon, Zoe found herself at the center of a lively discussion. The alien students peppered her with questions about Earth, human biology, and culture. She did her best to answer, all while marveling at the diversity around her. Her first class was comparative xenobiology, held in a vast amphitheater. As Zoe took her seat, she couldn't help but notice that a significant space had been left empty around her. It seemed not everyone was as eager to get close to the human as Blorp had been. The professor, a being that appeared to be made entirely of crystalline structures, began the lecture. "Today we have a unique opportunity," it chimed, its voice resonating through the crystal facets of its body. "We will be examining the biology of a species new to the galactic community, humans." All eyes turned to Zoe. She felt her face flush, but sat up straighter, determined to face the scrutiny with dignity. "Cadet Chen," the professor continued, "would you be willing to assist in a demonstration?" Zoe nodded and made her way to the front of the class. What followed was 2 hours of being scanned, prodded, and examined as the professor highlighted various aspects of human physiology. It was embarrassing at times, fascinating at others, and altogether surreal. "Note the inefficient respiratory system," the professor said at one point. "And yet, observe the remarkable endurance it provides. Humans have been known to engage in physical activities for hours on end, far outlasting many species with more advanced biological systems." As the class ended, Zoe felt a mix of relief and pride. She had survived her first academic trial, and judging by the interested murmurs from her classmates, she had made quite an impression. The rest of the day passed in a blur of classes, each more mind-bending than the last. Quantum astrogation left her head spinning with calculations that seemed to defy the laws of physics as she knew them. Psychic resonance theory introduced her to concepts of mental communication that she had previously thought impossible. By the time evening came, Zoe was mentally exhausted but exhilarated. As she made her way back to her quarters, she overheard snippets of conversation from passing aliens. Not as primitive as I expected. Did you see how quickly she grasped the basics of non-Euclidean mathematics? Still, can we trust them? You know their history. It was clear that her presence was causing quite a stir. Zoe knew she had a long way to go to prove herself and humanity worthy of a place in this advanced galactic society, but she was determined to rise to the challenge. As she settled into bed that night, Zoe reflected on the day's events. She had taken her first steps into a larger universe, one filled with wonders beyond her wildest dreams. But she had also glimpsed the prejudices and fears that humanity would need to overcome. One day at a time, she whispered to herself as she drifted off to sleep, "One mind at a time. We'll show them what humans are really capable of." Little did Zoe know that her opportunity to do just that would come sooner, and in a far more dramatic fashion than she could have possibly imagined. Cultural clashes. As weeks passed at the Galactic Academy, Zoe Chen found herself settling into a routine that was anything but ordinary. Each day brought new challenges, not just in her studies, but in navigating the complex web of alien cultures and customs that surrounded her. One particularly memorable incident occurred during her interspecies ethics and etiquette class. The professor, a tall, spindly being with multiple eye stalks, had asked for volunteers to demonstrate proper greetings from their home worlds. Zoe stepped forward confidently. "On Earth, one common greeting is a handshake," she explained, extending her hand to the professor. "It's a sign of peace, showing that we're not holding weapons." The professor recoiled, its eye stalks quivering in distress. "Cadet Chen," it exclaimed, "are you suggesting that I might be concealing weaponry? This is most offensive." Zoe's face flushed as titters and murmurs spread through the classroom. No, she stammered. "It's just a tradition, a symbol of trust and—" "Among my people," the professor interrupted, "extending a limb in such a manner is a prelude to physical combat. I had not expected such aggression from you, cadet." It took nearly half an hour of explanations and apologies before the misunderstanding was cleared up. By the end of it, Zoe was exhausted and embarrassed, but she had learned a valuable lesson about the pitfalls of cultural assumptions. As she left the class, she overheard two classmates whispering, "See, I told you humans were violent. Even their greetings are a challenge to fight." Perhaps, but did you notice how quickly she adapted? Maybe there's more to them than we thought. Zoe sighed. It seemed that every action she took was scrutinized and debated, with potential consequences for humanity's standing in the galactic community. Her next class, Advanced Xenotechnology, provided a different kind of challenge. The lab was filled with devices that seemed to defy the laws of physics as Zoe understood them. She watched in awe as her classmates manipulated gravity fields, created miniature singularities, and transmitted matter across vast distances with ease. When it was her turn to use a quantum entanglement communicator, Zoe hesitated. The device looked like a shifting mass of light and shadow, with no obvious controls. "Having trouble, human," sneered Vexler, a reptilian student who had made no secret of his disdain for Zoe. "Perhaps this technology is beyond your species' comprehension." Zoe gritted her teeth. She knew that her performance here could influence perceptions of human technological aptitude. Taking a deep breath, she reached out and touched the device. To her surprise, it responded to her thoughts, unfolding like a blooming flower. The holographic display sprang to life, showing a perfect quantum link. The professor, a being of pure energy contained within a specialized suit, buzzed with approval. "Excellent work, Cadet Chen. Your species' intuitive approach to technology is most impressive." Vexler's scales darkened in what Zoe had learned was a sign of frustration. She couldn't help but feel a small surge of satisfaction. As the weeks went on, Zoe found herself excelling in unexpected areas. Her human creativity and lateral thinking allowed her to propose novel solutions to problems that had stumped some of her alien classmates. In theoretical xenobiology, she suggested combining traits from multiple species to create more resilient organisms, an idea that earned her top marks and the grudging respect of Professor Corax. However, her successes also bred resentment among some students who saw her as a threat to their academic standing. Whispers followed her through the halls. How is she outperforming Zixvian in multidimensional calculus? Humans can't even perceive the higher dimensions. I heard she beat Glorp's record in the zero-gravity obstacle course. Are humans evolving faster than we thought? What if they're not as primitive as we assumed? Could they be a threat? Zoe did her best to ignore the gossip and focus on her studies, but the constant scrutiny was wearing. She found solace in the few friends she had made, like Blorp the Viscosi and Kethari, a feline-like being with a gift for languages. One evening, as they studied together in the library, Kethari turned to Zoe with a curious expression. "Zoe, may I ask you something personal?" "Of course," Zoe replied, setting aside her holographic textbook. "Why did you come here? You must have known it would be difficult, being the only human. What drives you?" Zoe was silent for a moment, considering her answer. "Curiosity, I suppose," she said finally. "Humans have always looked to the stars, wondering if we were alone. Now that we know we're not, we want to understand, to learn, to be part of something greater than ourselves." She paused, then added softly, "And maybe, to prove that we belong here. That we're not just some primitive species to be pitied or feared." Kethari's large eyes blinked slowly. "I think," the alien said carefully, "that you are proving that every day, whether you realize it or not." The conversation was interrupted by a commotion near the library entrance. A group of students was gathered around a holographic newsfeed, their voices raised in agitation. Zoe and Kethari hurried over to see what was happening. The news showed footage of a human ship engaging in what appeared to be a firefight with an unknown alien vessel near the borders of explored space. Unprovoked attack by human forces, the narrator was saying. The Galactic Council is convening an emergency session to discuss this blatant violation of interstellar law. Zoe felt her heart sink. She knew immediately that this incident would have repercussions far beyond the political sphere. Sure enough, as she looked around, she saw accusing glares directed her way. "I knew it," Vexilor hissed. "Humans can't be trusted. They're too aggressive, too unpredictable." "Wait," Zoe protested. "We don't know the full story. There must be an explanation." But her words were drowned out by the rising tide of angry voices. It seemed that all the progress she had made, all the bridges she had begun to build, were crumbling in an instant. As the crowd's hostility grew, Zoe felt a gentle tug on her arm. It was Blorp, its gelatinous form quivering with concern. "Come," it burbled softly. "It's not safe for you here right now." With a heavy heart, Zoe allowed her friends to escort her back to her quarters. As the door sealed behind her, she sank onto her bed, her mind racing. How could she defend humanity against these accusations? How could she convince her fellow students and teachers that her species was worthy of trust, of inclusion in the galactic community? As she grappled with these questions, a soft chime indicated an incoming message. It was from Dean Xylith. "Cadet Chen, in light of recent events, your presence is requested at an emergency meeting of the Academy Board tomorrow morning. Be prepared to speak on behalf of your species. The future of human participation in the Galactic Academy may depend on it." Zoe stared at the message, the weight of responsibility settling heavily on her shoulders. She knew that tomorrow would be a turning point, not just for her, but potentially for all of humanity's future in the stars. With determination, she began to prepare her arguments, drawing on everything she had learned about alien cultures and perspectives during her time at the Academy. She would need every ounce of human ingenuity and diplomacy to navigate the storm that was coming. As she worked late into the night, Zoe couldn't shake the feeling that this crisis was just the beginning of a much larger challenge, one that would test not only her own abilities, but the very foundations of interspecies cooperation in the galaxy. The incident. The morning of the emergency meeting dawned with an air of tension that seemed to permeate every corner of the Galactic Academy. As Zoe made her way to the Grand Council chamber, she could feel the weight of countless alien gazes upon her, a mix of curiosity, suspicion, and in some cases, outright hostility. The council chamber itself was a marvel of alien architecture, a vast dome that seemed to defy the laws of physics. The walls shimmered with holographic displays showing real-time updates from across the galaxy. At the center stood a circular platform where Zoe knew she would soon have to make her case. As she took her place, she saw familiar faces among the gathered dignitaries. Dean Selith's shimmering form pulsed with what Zoe hoped was encouragement. Professor Korax's bioluminescent patches glowed a deep, skeptical red. And there, to her surprise, was Blorp, its gelatinous form quivering slightly in what might have been a show of support. Dean Selith's harmonious voice brought the chamber to order. "We are gathered here to address the recent incident involving human forces near the Zeta Reticuli system. Cadet Zoe Chen, as the sole human representative at this institution, you have been called to provide insight into your species' actions and intentions." Zoe took a deep breath and stepped forward. "Honored members of the council," she began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I understand the gravity of the situation and the concerns it has raised. However, I must respectfully request that we withhold judgment until we have all the facts." A murmur rippled through the chamber. Professor Korax's voice boomed out, "Facts. The facts are clear, human. Your people attacked an innocent vessel without provocation." Zoe stood her ground. "With all due respect, Professor, we've only seen one side of the story. In human history, we've learned that conflicts often arise from misunderstandings. Perhaps if we—" Her words were cut short by a sudden blaring alarm. The holographic displays flickered and changed, showing a massive vessel approaching the Academy at high speed. "Incursion alert." Aria's usually calm voice rang out with urgency. "Unknown vessel breaching Academy defenses. All students and non-essential personnel, please proceed to designated safety zones." Chaos erupted in the chamber. Alien dignitaries scrambled for exits, their composure forgotten in the face of imminent danger. But Zoe noticed something on one of the displays that made her blood run cold, a familiar insignia on the hull of the attacking ship. "Wait," she shouted above the din. "That's not an alien ship, it's human." Her words brought a momentary hush to the panic. Dean Selith turned to her, its form rippling with concern. "Explain, Cadet Chen." Quickly. Zoe's mind raced. "That's the logo of Redshift Industries, a private corporation back on Earth. They're not military, but they've been pushing for more aggressive expansion into space. This isn't a government action, it's corporate piracy." Professor Korax's bioluminescent patches flared. "So you admit this is a human attack?" "No," Zoe protested. "This goes against everything Earth's governments stand for. We need to stop them, and I think I know how." To everyone's surprise, Zoe sprinted towards the nearest computer terminal. Her fingers flew over the alien interface as she explained, "Redshift's ships use a proprietary AI for navigation and combat. If I can access the Academy's quantum entanglement array, I might be able to create a backdoor into their systems." Dean Selith glided to her side. "What you're proposing is highly irregular, Cadet Chen, but given the circumstances, proceed." For several tense minutes, Zoe worked feverishly, her human intuition allowing her to make creative leaps in logic that baffled the watching aliens. Suddenly, the main display lit up with a direct feed from the attacking ship's bridge. "What the?" a gruff human voice exclaimed. "How did you get into our systems?" Zoe stepped into view of the camera. "This is Cadet Zoe Chen of the Galactic Academy. You are in violation of multiple interstellar laws and treaties. Stand down immediately." The man on the screen sneered. "Look at you, playing alien ambassador. Don't you realize what we could achieve if we took control of this technology?" Step aside, girl. This is bigger than you. Zoe's eyes narrowed. You're right. This is bigger than me. It's bigger than all of us. That's why I can't let you do this. With a final keystroke, she activated a subroutine she had buried in the ship's systems. On the display, alarms began to blare. What have you done? The man roared. I've initiated your ship's self-destruct sequence, Zoe said calmly. You have 10 minutes to evacuate in escape pods. I suggest you use them. The feed cut off abruptly. For a moment, there was silence in the council chamber. Then, as one, the assembled aliens turned to stare at Zoe. Dean Thalith was the first to speak. Cadet Chen. That was most impressive and disturbing. You were willing to destroy a ship of your own kind. Zoe nodded sullenly. To protect the Academy and everything it stands for. Yes, humanity's future lies in cooperation with the galactic community, not in conquest or theft. As they watched, the redshift vessel broke apart into dozens of escape pods, streaking away from the Academy. Moments later, the main ship exploded in a brilliant, silent flash. In the aftermath, as security forces moved to intercept the escape pods, the mood in the council chamber had shifted dramatically. Aliens who had been ready to condemn all of humanity now looked at Zoe with newfound respect and curiosity. Professor Corax approached her, his bioluminescent patches now glowing a soft blue. It seems I may have misjudged your species, Cadet Chen. Your actions today have given me much to reconsider. Dean Salit's form shimmered with what Zoe now recognized as pride. Indeed, Cadet Chen, you have demonstrated the very best of what humanity has to offer: quick thinking, adaptability, and a strong moral compass. I believe this incident, while troubling, has ultimately strengthened humanity's position in the galactic community. As the adrenaline of the moment faded, Zoe felt the weight of what she had done settle upon her. She had stopped an attack, potentially saved lives, and perhaps changed the course of human-alien relations. But she had also been forced to act against her own kind, a complexity that she knew would haunt her for some time to come. As the council chamber slowly emptied, Blorp oozed up to her side. That was most impressive, friend Zoe, it burbled. I believe you have given us all much to think about regarding the nature of species, individuals, and the choices we make. Zoe managed a small smile. Thanks, Blorp. I just hope I've done more good than harm today. As she left the chamber, Zoe couldn't shake the feeling that this incident was just the beginning. She had proven humanity's worth in a crisis, but she knew that greater challenges and opportunities lay ahead. The true test would be in the days to come, as the Academy and the wider galactic community grappled with the implications of what had occurred. With a mix of trepidation and determination, Zoe stepped out into the corridor, ready to face whatever the future might hold. Rising tensions. In the days following the redshift incident, Zoe found herself at the center of a storm of attention. Her actions had saved the Academy, but they had also thrust her, and by extension, all of humanity, into the galactic spotlight. As she entered the main atrium one morning, a week after the attack, she was met with a cacophony of alien voices and a sea of curious faces. Some regarded her with newfound respect, others with intensified suspicion. Cadet Chen called out a crystalline being, its faceted body refracting the atrium's light. Is it true that all humans possess your level of technological intuition? Before Zoe could answer, a hovering cloud of sentient gas interjected, its words forming in puffs of colored vapor. More importantly, how can we trust that other humans won't attempt what Redshift did? Perhaps you were in league with them all along. Zoe raised her hands, trying to calm the growing commotion. Please, everyone, I'm just one person. I can't speak for all of humanity, but I can assure you that most of us want peaceful cooperation, not conflict. As she spoke, she noticed Dean Xylith gliding towards her, its iridescent form parting the crowd. Cadet Chen, it said, its harmonious voice cutting through the chatter, your presence is requested in Conference Room Alpha. It seems your actions have attracted some high-level attention. Zoe's heart raced as she followed the dean. Conference Room Alpha was reserved for the most important galactic diplomats and leaders. As they entered, she gasped. The room was filled with holographic projections of beings she had only read about in her xenopolitics textbooks. A being of pure energy, contained within a shimmering force field, spoke first. "Greetings, Zoe Chen of Earth. I am High Counselor Zix of the Galactic Confederation. Your actions have not gone unnoticed." Zoe bowed deeply, remembering her diplomatic training. "High Counselor, it's an honor. I hope my actions have not caused any diplomatic incidents." A rumbling laugh came from a massive, rock-like entity. "Quite the contrary, young one. You've given us much to discuss regarding humanity's role in galactic affairs." For the next hour, Zoe found herself engaged in an intense debate about Earth's readiness for fuller integration into the galactic community. She argued passionately for humanity's potential, citing their rapid technological advancement and adaptability. "But what of your species' violent tendencies?" asked a multi-limbed being with eyes that seemed to peer into Zoe's soul. "The redshift incident proves that some humans still harbor aggressive, expansionist ideals." Zoe took a deep breath. "With respect, esteemed ones, I would argue that the incident proves the opposite. Yes, there are humans who might choose violence or theft. But there are also those of us willing to stand against such actions, even at great personal cost. We're a diverse species, capable of great good and, yes, great harm. But isn't that true of all sentient life?" Her words seemed to strike a chord. The High Counselor's energy form pulsed thoughtfully. "You speak wisely for one so young, Zoe Chen. Perhaps it is time we reconsidered our cautious approach to Earth." As the meeting concluded, Zoe felt a mix of exhaustion and exhilaration. She had spoken on behalf of her entire species, and it seemed her words had made an impact. However, as she left the conference room, she was confronted by a group of alien students led by Vexillar, the reptilian who had always been skeptical of her presence. "We heard about your little meeting," Vexillar hissed. "Trying to fast-track humanity's ascension, are you?" "Some of us remember the dangers of admitting primitive species too quickly." Zoe stood her ground. "We're not trying to take over, Vexillar. We just want a chance to prove ourselves, to contribute to the galactic community." "Pretty words," Vexillar sneered. "But actions speak louder. We'll be watching you, human. One wrong move, and we'll make sure your kind is locked out of galactic affairs for good." As Vexillar and his group slithered away, Zoe felt a gentle touch on her shoulder. It was Kthari, her feline-like friend. "Don't let them get to you," Kthari purred. "Many of us see the value humans could bring to the Academy and beyond." Zoe managed a small smile. "Thanks, Kthari. I just wish everyone could see that we're not a threat." "Give it time," Kthari replied. "Change doesn't happen overnight, even in a society as advanced as ours." Over the next few weeks, Zoe noticed a shift in the Academy's atmosphere. Students and faculty seemed to be dividing into factions. Some, inspired by her actions during the Redshift incident, became vocal supporters of increased human involvement in galactic affairs. Others, like Vexillar, grew more adamant in their opposition. The tension came to a head during a debate in Zoe's interspecies ethics class. The topic was whether to expand the exchange program to bring more humans to the Academy. "It's too risky," argued a student with crystalline appendages. "We've seen the chaos just one human can cause. Imagine a whole group of them." "But we've also seen the benefits," countered Blorp, its gelatinous form quivering with emotion. "Zoe's unique perspective has already led to breakthroughs in several fields. Think of what we could learn from more human minds." The debate raged on, growing more heated by the moment. Zoe sat silently, feeling the weight of her species' future on her shoulders. She knew that her every action, her every word, was being scrutinized and would influence the outcome of this galactic discussion. As the class ended, Professor Korax approached her, his bioluminescent patches glowing a thoughtful blue. "You've stirred up quite the controversy, Cadet Chen," he rumbled. "But perhaps that's not a bad thing. Complacency is the enemy of progress, after all. Zoe nodded, grateful for the professor's unexpected support. I never meant to cause such division, she said softly. Corax's patches flickered with what might have been amusement. Few great changes in history come without some level of discord, young human. The question is, how will you navigate these turbulent waters? As Zoe left the classroom, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was standing at a crossroads of galactic history. The decisions made in the coming days and weeks could shape the future of human-alien relations for centuries to come. She made her way to her favorite spot in the academy, a quiet observation deck that offered a breathtaking view of the swirling nebulae and distant stars. As she gazed out at the cosmic tapestry, she felt both small and immensely significant. Whatever happens, she whispered to herself, I have to believe that we can find a way forward together. Humans and aliens, united in the pursuit of knowledge and understanding. Little did Zoe know that her resolve would soon be tested in ways she could never have imagined. As she stood there, contemplating the future, events were already in motion that would force her, and the entire academy, to confront their deepest fears and highest ideals. The stage was set for a crisis that would determine not just Zoe's fate, but the fate of human-alien relations for generations to come. The resolution. The tension that had been building at the Galactic Academy finally reached its breaking point on a day that began like any other. Zoe was in the middle of a particularly challenging quantum physics lecture when alarms began blaring throughout the campus. Attention all students and faculty, Aroya's voice echoed urgently. A critical malfunction has been detected in the Academy's primary power core. Please evacuate immediately to designated safe zones. Panic erupted as beings of all species rushed towards the exits. Zoe was about to follow when she noticed Professor Corax struggling to move, his bioluminescent patches flickering weakly. Professor, she called out, fighting against the tide of fleeing students to reach him. What's wrong? My species, Corax gasped, was sensitive to electromagnetic fluctuations. The core malfunction, it's affecting my motor functions. Without hesitation, Zoe slung the professor's arm over her shoulder, supporting his weight as they made their way towards the exit. As they moved, she overheard snatches of frantic conversation. Sabotage, it has to be. The humans must be behind this. No, it's those isolationist factions. They had almost reached the evacuation point when a deafening explosion rocked the building. The lights flickered and died, plunging them into darkness broken only by the glow of Corax's bioluminescence. Suddenly, here's Part 5, the final part of the story. Part 5, the resolution. The tension that had been building at the Galactic Academy finally reached its breaking point on a day that began like any other. Zoe was in the middle of a particularly challenging quantum physics lecture when alarms began blaring throughout the campus. Attention all students and faculty, Aroya's voice echoed urgently. A critical malfunction has been detected in the Academy's primary power core. Please evacuate immediately to designated safe zones. Panic erupted as beings of all species rushed towards the exits. Zoe was about to follow when she noticed Professor Corax struggling to move, his bioluminescent patches flickering weakly. Professor, she called out, fighting against the tide of fleeing students to reach him. What's wrong? My species, Corax gasped, was sensitive to electromagnetic fluctuations. The core malfunction, it's affecting my motor functions. Without hesitation, Zoe slung the professor's arm over her shoulder, supporting his weight as they made their way towards the exit. As they moved, she overheard snatches of frantic conversation. Sabotage, it has to be. The humans must be behind this. No, it's those isolationist factions. They had almost reached the evacuation point when a deafening explosion rocked the building. The lights flickered and died, plunging them into darkness, broken only by the glow of Corax's bioluminescence. The backup generators should have kicked in, Corax muttered, his voice laced with concern. Zoe's mind raced. Professor, the power core, it's based on controlled quantum singularities, right? if it's destabilizing. Corax patches pulsed with alarm. The entire station could be torn apart, but the fail-safes. What if someone deliberately disabled them? Zoe asked, the pieces falling into place. This isn't just a malfunction, it's an attack. Before Corax could respond, Dean Solith's voice resonated through their personal communicators. Attention all capable personnel. The situation is critical. We need volunteers to attempt manual stabilization of the core. Be warned, the risk is extreme. Zoe didn't hesitate. I'm going, she declared. Corax patches flared. Cadet Chen, the radiation alone could kill you. Your species isn't adapted for. No one's adapted for a quantum singularity explosion, Zoe cut him off. But humans are adaptable. That's our strength. And right now, it might be the Academy's only hope. Leaving the weakened Corax in the care of medical drones, Zoe raced towards the power core. As she ran, she linked her communicator to the Academy's systems, absorbing as much information about the core's design as she could. When she reached the core chamber, she found chaos. Alien technicians worked frantically at control panels, their efforts seemingly in vain as a massive sphere of contained energy at the center of the room pulsed ominously. Status report, Zoe shouted, surprising herself with her own authority. A crystalline being turned to her, its facets reflecting the core's unstable light. The containment field is failing. We can't stabilize it from here. Someone needs to manually realign the quantum flux regulators, but the radiation. Zoe nodded grimly. I'll do it. Guide me through the process. As she approached the core, the air itself seemed to crackle with energy. Every instinct screamed at her to turn back, but she pressed on, remembering all those who had given her a chance, who had believed in humanity's potential. Step by agonizing step, she made her way to the regulators. Her skin tingled, then burned as the radiation penetrated her cells. But she gritted her teeth and focused on the task at hand. Rotate the primary cylinder 43 degrees clockwise, the crystalline being instructed. Zoe complied, her hands shaking with the effort. Now, reroute the auxiliary power through the tertiary conduits. As Zoe worked, she became aware of a commotion behind her. Through the haze of pain and concentration, she heard familiar voices. Let me through, I can help her. It was Vexler, the very student who had been so opposed to her presence at the Academy. Your scales, another voice, was it Blorp? Said, they're resistant to this type of radiation, aren't they? Yes, but. Then go, help her save us all. Moments later, Zoe felt a scaly hand on her shoulder. Together, human, Vexler hissed, his voice strained but determined. With Vexler's help, the work went faster. As they neared completion, Zoe's vision began to blur, her strength fading. But she pushed through, making the final adjustments with trembling hands. Suddenly, the core's pulsing steadied. The oppressive energy in the room began to dissipate. It's stabilizing, the crystalline being exclaimed. You've done it. As cheers erupted around them, Zoe felt herself slipping into unconsciousness. The last thing she saw was Vexler's face, his expression a mix of concern and newfound respect. Zoe awoke days later in the medical bay, surrounded by a diverse group of worried faces: Dean Solith, Professor Corax, Cathari, Blorp, and even Vexler. Welcome back, Cadet Chen. Dean Solith's melodious voice greeted her. You've been through quite an ordeal. As Zoe's mind cleared, the memories came flooding back. The Academy, is everyone okay? Corax's bioluminescent patches glowed warmly. Thanks to you and Vexler, yes. Your actions saved countless lives. Vexler stepped forward, looking uncomfortable but determined. I was wrong about you, human. About your species. You've shown a courage and selflessness that many of us could learn from. Dean Solith's form shimmered with what Zoe now recognized as pride. Indeed, this incident has sparked a galactic-wide discussion about humanity's role in our community. Your actions, Zoe, have done more to advance human-alien relations than years of diplomacy. Cathari purred softly. The High Council is even discussing fast-tracking Earth's full membership in the Galactic Confederation. Zoe felt overwhelmed. I just did what anyone would do, she said softly. Blorp burbled a laugh. That's precisely the point, friend Zoe. You've shown us that humans, at their core, are not so different from the rest of us, capable of great good and willing to sacrifice for others. As her friends continued to update her on the changes sweeping through the academy and beyond, Zoe felt a profound sense of hope. The road ahead would not be easy. There were still those who feared or mistrusted humanity, and the saboteurs who had caused the incident were still at large. But in this moment, surrounded by beings from across the galaxy who had come together in crisis, Zoe knew that a new chapter in galactic history had begun. Humanity had proven its worth not through conquest or technological superiority, but through compassion, adaptability, and the willingness to risk everything for the greater good. As she drifted off to sleep, comforted by the presence of her alien friends, Zoe smiled. The stars had never seemed closer, or the future brighter. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, humans and aliens, united in the grand adventure of cosmic exploration and understanding. The Galactic Academy and the wider universe beyond would never be the same, and neither would Zoe Chen, the human girl who had changed the course of galactic history.